Here's one. Why didn't the mummy have any friends?
Because he was a loner. I don't know.
Okay, well, she tried. She tried. She said because he was a loner. No, sorry. It's because he was too wrapped up in himself. Stop it. Pity laughs. All right. Your PowerPoint. Here it is. This is not you. This is somebody else on the cover of your PowerPoint. I don't know if y'all know who that is. Anyway, we're going to understand the skeletal muscle tissue that helps you to treat strained muscles effectively with rice. My EMTs, what is rice? Any of my medical students, actually, what is rice? Which is all
Rest.
Rest.
Ice.
Ice.
Compression and elevation.
Compression and elevation. Rest, ice, compression, and elevation, which is what you typically use to treat most muscle injuries unless they are.
Half of your body mass consists of one primary type of tissue, muscle tissue. When you think of muscles, you likely think of the biceps of a weightlifter, but muscle tissue is also found in many other areas of the body, including the walls of the...
Darn it, I realized I forgot to share my screen sound. You're welcome.
Nearly half of your body mass consists of one primary type of tissue, muscle tissue. When you think of muscles, you likely think of the biceps of a weightlifter, but muscle tissue is also found in many other areas of the body, including the walls of the heart and stomach. There are three types of muscle tissue: skeletal, cardiac, and smooth muscle tissue. Skeletal muscle tissue forms skeletal muscles that attach to joints and bones and are responsible for overall body mobility. As a clinician, it's very important that you have a solid understanding of muscle tissue so that you can properly treat your patients with tissue and muscle injuries. For example, many patients pull or strain their muscles while playing sports. A strained muscle occurs when the muscle has been excessively stretched or possibly torn due to overuse of the muscle. The injured muscle becomes painfully inflamed and surrounding joints are usually immobilized. As a healthcare professional, you will need to know how to treat these types of injuries. The standard treatment, known by the acronym RICE, which stands for Rest, Ice, Compression, and Elevation. This treatment helps relieve a patient's pain and decrease inflammation. A thorough understanding of skeletal muscle tissue will enable you to help patients recover from painful muscle injuries.
You heard it here first, folks. Just knowing the muscles, while important for anatomy and physiology and many of the medical careers that are available to you, is not enough. You have to understand how the muscle works. So here's a bit of an overview. Nearly half of the body's mass, okay? It can transform chemical energy into directed mechanical energy, which is capable of exerting force. So the chemical energy happens in the form of first neurotransmitters from a neuron, which then floods the surrounding muscle tissue with calcium, which then triggers a very, very large enzyme called troponin to move away from actin heads, so myosin can bind and pull muscle. So all that together. You don't have to know what any of that means right now, but you will have to by the end of this PowerPoint. To investigate muscle, we look at the types of muscle tissue, characteristics of muscle tissue, and muscle functions. You should know that muscle is abbreviated, abbreviated is fine, as myo, mys, and sarco in our Latin, Greek medical terminology. Example is sarcoplasm, is the cytoplasm of a muscle cell. We have three types of skeletal muscle. You do know this. It's skeletal, cardiac, and smooth. Only skeletal and smooth muscle cells are elongated and referred to as muscle fibers. But then, at that point on, the muscle fibers and the way they are arranged are very, very different depending on if it's skeletal muscle or smooth muscle. Okay, skeletal muscles. They are organs that are attached to bones and skin, right? We have skeletal muscles arranged so that they form striations along the muscle fiber. We can call these stripes if you want, but those striations actually end up being very specific parts of each muscle. You have the Z band, the I band, and the intercalculated discs, and so on and so forth. They're voluntary, which means we can decide to move them, or they can move randomly on their own. Like if you've ever woken up because you punched yourself in your sleep by any chance, has that ever happened? Any of you, like your arms are asleep and you roll over and your hand smacks yourself in the face? If not, it's something to look forward to in your life because it might happen to each of you individually at some point. The muscles pull on the bones to move them. Your biceps pull, your arm comes up, your triceps pull, your arm goes down, etc., etc. They contract rapidly. They do tire easily, especially if you are doing any kind of aerobic exercise, so that you are burning through the oxygen available in your cell tissue and they have to change to fermentation. Then you will tire much more faster, a lot more faster than you would if you were staying in your aerobic zone. And of course, they're powerful. Skeletal, striated, and voluntary, words that you need to know for muscles. Cardiac muscle, it's found in the heart. That's what cardio means. What does it, the ick mean? Or IAC, what does that mean in medical terminology? Like if we took this word and pulled it apart, it would be card/I, and then the suffix is -AC. What does that AC mean? Anybody?
Is it like pertaining to?
Yes, thank you. It means pertaining to. So pertaining to muscle tissue. It's found only in the heart, cardiac muscle tissue. It makes up the bulk of the heart walls. If you remember, or are you relearning, the heart has 3 layers of tissue. The endo, oh God. What is wrong with me? Endo, myo, and epi, what is it? Anyway, it has the epi, myo, and endo layers, and the myo is the thickest layer. Which side of the heart is it thickest on?
The interior?
Well, I mean left or right in this question.
Oh, would it be left?
It would be left, but why?
But doesn't that mean where the blood leaves? Like through the blood flow?
To be fair, the blood leaves both sides of the heart, but where does the right side push the blood to?
The right atrium.
To the lungs.
Oh, I knew that.
Yes, to the lungs, and the left side has to push it out to the rest of the body. So it has more pressure. Very good, Lennon. So the cardiac muscle is much thicker on the left side of your heart to push it up and out into the body. Cardiac muscle is also striated, but not in the same way as skeletal muscle. It has these things called intercalated discs that branch and break apart the muscle in different ways. It's involuntary. You can't control your heartbeat. You can't, sorry. You can do things to speed it up and slow it down, but you can't physically go, I'm controlling my heartbeat right now, and it slows down or speeds up. So keywords for cardiac is cardiac, striated, and voluntary. And then you got smooth muscle. It's found in all your hollow organs. So your bladder, your stomach, your other things, airways, okay, good. Not striated, which is why we call it smooth, and it cannot be controlled either. It's all involuntary. So it's controlled with a separate system of separate nervous system that you have no control over. And so you don't, I mean, to be fair, you do tell your body when you're going to pee and when you're going to poop and when you're going to do things, but also your body tells you when it's going to happen. and you have control of 1 or 2 sphincter muscles, depending on which organ you're talking about. And so you can voluntarily relax those sphincter muscles to use the restroom. But also, if you don't do it in a timely manner, your body's going to make it happen anyway. So you should do that. Nice picture. Here is your very evenly striated skeletal muscle. You can see the bands are evenly spaced, definitely striped right here. Cardiac muscle is also striped, and you can see that, but it's highly branched compared to skeletal muscle, and it has those intercalated discs that sting deeper. And the intercalated discs are where 2 cells meet, by the way. Please note how highly nucleated muscle cells are. This is because they have a lot that is happening to them in terms of having to control energy and movement. And here's your smooth muscle fibers packed tightly together, not striated. There are 4 main characteristics to muscle tissue: excitability, which is the ability to respond to your environment; contractility, which means you can contract the muscle; extensibility, which means you can stretch the muscle; and elasticity, which means you can do both without destroying the muscle. You can contract it and stretch it out, and it'll always come back to normal muscle shape. Oh, what is the word for your muscles? Okay, take a moment to think about how you are sitting and everything right now. Your muscles are constantly always partially contracted. What is the word for that? No, not the movement. In order for you to be sitting up straight, in order for your head not to be falling over and all that, and you're not just falling out of your chair, you're actually all your muscles are partially contracted at this moment. They're holding you up. And that's called something, and I'm asking you what that is called. Y'all sure you're seniors? You've been through the medical program for 4 years? Well, not Lennon, true. It is muscle tone. Muscle tone or tonicity. Our bodies are always partially contracted, or not our bodies, but our muscles, in order to keep us just, from not being laying out on the ground. All right, functions. We move, remove, locomotion and manipulation. Talk about some things that we do that is manipulating.
Like that are voluntary or involuntary?
We're talking, let's say skeletal muscle, so voluntary.
Typing.
Okay, typing is apparently Thomas has joined us, and typing is manipulation with your hands. What other body parts do we use to manipulate things?
Your foot.
I suppose your foot, yes. What else?
All of your limbs.
In a way, not so much. Your hands more than limbs. Your limbs are involved in locomotion, sure. I'm thinking of your mouth, right? Because what do you do with your mouth?
Eat, talk.
You eat, and so the food that you take bites of is not in the same form as it is when you swallow, unless you just like to swallow things whole, you snake you. And that is a form of manipulation. We manipulate the food. Then yeah, anything we do with our hands is also manipulation. Mani itself, of course, means hand, but hands aren't the only things that manipulate on our body. And as we already talked about, or I talked about, it maintains posture and body position. It stabilizes your joints. Thanks for that. And it's a heat generator, which is why you shiver when you're cold, because your muscles can generate massive quantities of heat in comparison to other things in your body. And so that is a purpose, a function of them. They also protect organs, form valves, like those sphincter valves I already talked about. You have, I don't want to say it wrong. I hate to tell you the wrong thing. Let me Google real quick on my phone. How many well, let me spell sphincter, right? Sphincter valves in the human body. Let's see what Google has to say. There are over 60 types of sphincters in the human body, some microscopically small, in particular the millions of precapillary sphincters. So while there are other types of valves in the human body, sphincter is one of those very, very important ones. Control pupil size, that's involuntary, but it is done by 4 muscles and cause those little goosey bumps. What happens when you get goosebumps? Remind me again.
Your erector pili contracts.
Very good. Very good. Your erector pili in your integumentary system contract and pull that hair shaft up right instead of at an angle that it normally is at. And that causes the tissue around it to kind of pucker up, causing a goosebump. Excellent. Okay, skeletal muscle. We're going to start getting in, we're going to look at muscle, get into the different ways, the way that muscle is built on itself, and then get into a single muscle cell. So we're gonna go as macro into microscopic in our view of the muscle. You have nerve and blood supply, so they're innervated and vascularized. Those are the words. Innervated means it has nerves, and vascularized means there's blood supply. You have lots of connective tissue and attachments such as ligaments. Each muscle receives a nerve, artery, and veins. Why is it important that each muscle receives a nerve? Oh, it already says it. Why is it important that each muscle receives a nerve?
Oh, because for involuntary muscles, the brain will let our body know when to breathe or when to do anything that's necessary for us to live.
Actually, yes, that's very important for the involuntary. I wasn't even thinking involuntary, but good job, Neot. Yeah, the brain is controlling your involuntary muscles. So your intestines are not going to contract. Your stomach is not going to contract. You're not going to breathe in and out without your brain telling you to happen. You can, like we've talked about with the skeleton, force air in and out of your body, but it's not the same thing as you breathing in and out. Good. So each type of muscle has to have a nerve supply to control activity. And then of course they're made up of cells, so they have to have arteries and veins in order to get supplies and nutrients to and from the cells. Contracting muscle fibers require huge amounts of oxygen and nutrients. Huge amounts of oxygen. Who wants to be brave and remember back to 1406 biology? Why oxygen is so important?
For aerobic something.
Well, you were right with the word respiration. So cellular respiration, but why is that so important?
To create energy for the cells.
Right. Okay. So cellular respiration creates ATP, but why is that oxygen so important? Lennon says it's the very last step of cellular respiration. Is putting electrons in the form of hydrogens on that final oxygen and making water. So it's super important that it's there, or the system actually can't finish creating ATP. And also we need waste products removed quickly. Okay, let's get into some vocabulary here. Okay, each skeletal muscle itself, like the whole muscle, like if I don't know if you can see, can y'all see me on camera? Or when I make my face small, do I go away completely?
We can see you.
You can, I'm there. That's annoying for you guys, I'm sorry. Each skeletal, pretend like, bless you, pretend like I'm holding, here. This is your bicep, let's say, okay? your bicep is wrapped around with a connective fiber sheath. So you have connective tissue wrapping around your bicep, okay? And then that supports cells and reinforces the whole muscle. But then when we get into it, you're going to find out that every single muscle fiber, so let's just say that this is a muscle fiber that's coming out of the bicep, it has its own individual connective tissue sheath as well, as do all the other ones that are packed into that muscle. So we're going to get into that. But around the whole muscle, wrapped around the whole bicep, is the epimysium. Okay, so epi, you know, upon, mesium. It's dense, irregular connective tissue. We usually call it the fascia. It actually blends into the fascia. Who cooks a lot of pork here? You got pork cookers. I don't know if you've ever had to prepare your pork for cooking, especially like a pork loin, but it has something called a silver skin to it that you have to take off. Have you ever done that? Yeah. That silver skin is the epimysium. Okay, so you got to remove that in order to eat the fibers of the pork. It does kind of look like plastic, I'll agree with that. Okay, so then you have the perimysium, which is a fibrous connective tissue surrounding fascicles, which is just kind of a fun word, fascicles. Let's go decorate our house with fascicles for Christmas, shall we? No? Okay, you have to kill a lot of people, which are groups of muscle fibers. And then you have the endomysium, which will then wrap around each individual muscle fiber. So epi and then endo, and in between you can have groups of these muscle fibers wrapped around with the perimysium. What am I saying? All right, here we go. Whole muscle, this is, that's the femur. So what is this, one of the quadriceps? Your whole muscle here, around the whole muscle is the epimysium. And then groups of these muscle fibers bound together, this is your perimysium. And we call this grouping a fascicle. Still love that word. And then each individual muscle fiber has that endomysium wrapping around it. So all of this what's wrapping around it, and you can see all the ways it's sheathed around each muscle fiber in this fascicle as well. Also, we got blood vessels, right? The epi's up here, right, the big one. Peri's the middle one, around groups of muscle fibers. And then endo is around each individual muscle fiber. Or it says between, but it's also around. So, and then
What are those blue circles?
I'm sorry, what?
What are those blue circles in the middle?
That is the
There's
nucleus.
like red circles and then blue circles.
Okay, so the red is blood vessel. It got one of those there. But the blue is going to be all the nuclei. Well, okay, no, okay. So right here, this is obviously a blood vessel, but here is nuclei. Well, here is nuclei. See, there's too many blues. Which one are you talking about? Are you talking about the blues in the big picture,
Well,
or
they're all nucleuses, aren't they?
here and here? Yes. They're showing you the individual nucleus. Here you're looking at veins.
Oh, okay, those are veins. All right.
Yeah, here's veins, but here, these are all nuclei. Yes. Huh, I said nucleuses, like I'm a smart person. And then if you want, you can try to find the sheaths in here, but I'm not going to make you look at microscopic views of this. I like this picture much better than this. Okay, muscles attached to bone in at least two places. You have an insertion, attachment to a movable bone, and origin, attachment to a less movable bone, typically. Attachments can be direct or indirect. Direct is it goes directly to the bone. Okay, fused to the periosteum of bone or the perichondrium of cartilage, depending on if it's like attached to your nose or something. And then indirect is that it connects to other tissue that creates a rope-like tendon or a sheet-like aponeurosis. Where is there a sheet-like aponeurosis on your body? The most common one, where is it? Kind of, maybe, yeah.
Ms. Moore, can you repeat that again?
So, okay, so you can have your muscles going directly to the bone or cartilage, or you can have it directly or indirectly wrap into rope-like tendons, which is very common, or sheet-like aponeurosis. So a sheet-like covering over some muscles. I know there's more than one, but I can only think of one right now. And I'm wondering if y'all also know where the one that I'm thinking of.
Is it in the transverse oblique, like in the abdominal muscle? That one?
So yeah, it's not so much a transverse, but yes, it's the abdomen. It's where the six-pack would be, let's say, if you had one. Did you? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear it. Six-pack, yeah. So you have an aponeurosis covering your abdominal muscles. And so they're just holding all those muscles together there instead of like having that rope-like tendon attached to it. It's just a sheet covering it. That's just a fun word. You probably should know it like when you graduate, but then you'll automatically forget it anyway. So that's okay. More pictures of the museums. Let me see something. Okay, let's go back. Okay. Muscle fiber microanatomy. So we're getting into each individual muscle fiber, each individual, well, God bless me, America. Each individual muscle fiber here, okay? That's what we're doing. Your muscle fiber has a plasma membrane that we call the sarcolemma. So instead of the plasma membrane, we call it the sarcolemma. And then the cytoplasm is the sarcoplasm. It just tells you where you are in the body when you say it that way. Sure, they contain glycosomes for glycogen storage and myoglobin for O2 storage. I'm sure you're supposed to know that. I'm probably not going to make you know that. They have modified organelles, myofibrils, sarcoplasmic reticulum, very important, and T-tubules. In fact, they're all very important. The modified organelles are super important. The myofibrils are densely packed rod-like elements. Each single muscle fiber can contain thousands of myofibrils. And so it accounts for up to 80% of the fiber volume, okay, of muscle cell volume. The myofibril is what's giving you those striations because it's broken up into I bands and Z bands. You're gonna know about that eventually. Sarcomeres, the myofilaments, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so these are more, it's all terminology at this point. You just got to learn all these new words. So this is an individual muscle fiber, okay? No, see all slides. This is an individual muscle fiber. Do you see all the myofibrils that make up one muscle fiber? Okay. Okay, the sarcolemma is the basically cell membrane of the muscle cell. And then the sarcoplasma is the cytoplasm in between the cells, okay? Here it's showing you, it's got a whole bunch of mitochondria. And don't forget the blue is the nuclei, many multinuclei. They're multinucleated cells. This is, the whole thing is one muscle fiber, yes. In this muscle fiber, you can see that we have dark A bands and then the light I bands, and it's go AI, 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 AI. This is important for how a muscle contracts, and it's gonna take us a long time to get to that slide because, oops, I'm sorry. Not to burst y'all's bubbles, but we have, oh, only 79? I thought it was in the hundreds, never mind. We have quite a few slides, but not as many as I thought. Nucleus, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, let me see. Yeah, we'll do 2 more slides. Your striations are stripes. Striations just mean stripes. It's a repeating series of A bands and I bands. So I was saying Z discs. Sorry, I had the Z in the wrong place. A bands are the dark regions. A bands are the dark regions. But then you have an H zone, which is a lighter region in the middle of the dark A band. You're welcome for all of this. And then an M line intersects or bisects that H zone. Don't worry about it just yet. No A and I at this point. A and I. And then you have a Z disc in the I lighter regions, which are coin-shaped sheets of proteins on the midline. Okay, so A band, I band, AI, dark light, dark light, dark light. That's really all that matters. What you may not know is that every single muscle fiber, let me give you, I can't hit the right thing to save my life. Every single muscle fiber is built like this. Okay, these are myosin heads, and this is actin filaments up here. I told you that muscles are my favorite thing to teach, and they are because of how the muscle works. And in a nutshell, what happens is after this whole system is flooded with calcium, the actin here is exposed and myosin binds to it and pulls and binds to it and pulls and binds to it and pulls. So these myosin heads actually move this way, move into this space here where these like weird yellow blocks are, and over here. And when it moves into this space, it shortens that part of the muscle. And that happens for the entire muscle as it contracts. So it's just this piece of a muscle fiber, which here is that H and A and Z bands that they're talking about. So we're not there yet. You just need to know I and A so far. But look, let's go back to this picture. That's happening in this A and I region. So it's an IAI, and then IAI, and then IAI. In every IAI region, you have all that happening to contract that entire muscle. It is a lot of work to contract a muscle. Yeah, but they would all have to be waving at once instead of doing the stadium wave that undulates. The whole thing has to happen at once. So it's really fascinating. Slow start, I'll agree, but you're welcome to work ahead of me. I'm still going to go through the whole PowerPoint. I'm going to go through all the PowerPoints. We have 3 of them. Make sure I'm right. Huh? Oh, that would be amazing if you get through that PowerPoint today. I would not even ask you to get that, like half of the PowerPoint would be, but I'm still going to lecture through the whole thing. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Only Fatima. But where's y'all's? There it is. No, that's my email. Here we go. We have skeletal muscle, and then we actually have whole muscle contraction, which is a shorter one. And then not shown yet is muscle tissue, smooth muscle tissue specifically, and then muscles of the body. So I'm sorry, it's actually 4 PowerPoints that we have to get through. So we're going to be in muscles for a while. In fact, you're probably going to be sick of hearing about muscles by the time we're done. But we are, by the way, in case I haven't told y'all, y'all are working so fast through this material that you have me so ahead of my own schedule currently that we can take some time in muscles. So that's also going to give us lots of time. You're going to give me more time in the nervous system than I've ever had before, which is both good and bad for you because there's like 5 chapters covering the nervous system. Anywho, so muscles, they're fascinating. Don't forget your online resource here. I would start, actually, Lynn and I would start here. Start here and start reading through this and then get into the PowerPoints. And don't forget attendance. Normally y'all don't, but sometimes you do. And so, how was your ACT, everybody?
Boring.
Yeah, well, oh, she goes, no. No, Cassandra, did you come take the ACT?
No, because I didn't know we had to sign up.
God. Okay.
Yeah.
Did all of you get to take it besides her?
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw Neot. I know Lennon's taking it, right? Thomas, were you here to take it?
Yeah, I was with Pedro.
You were with Pedro. So That means 4 of you were here. And I saw Fatima too, I think. Maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, 5 of y'all were here and not a single one of you came by and said hi. You know what? I'm ending this. Y'all just, you know what? Whatever. Love you all. Bye.